Welcome to Resiliency Redefined. I'm your host, Robyne, and I am thrilled to share with you information about resiliency, well-being, performance, education, business, parenting, and everything in between. I'm committed to joining you each week to talk about these big ideas and bring them into action, habits, tools, strategies, tactics that allow us to finally uncover what it takes to truly be well. And I'm just so excited that you're here. Welcome back to Resiliency Redefined. I'm your host, Robyne, and today I am excited to continuing answer some of the questions that people have asked through. A bunch of these have come in through Instagram. But one of the questions that I really was excited to share today was how can you, with all of the, busyness, with all of the hecticness, with all of the noise, how do you slow down enough to be able to be in the moment? Now, what I really loved about this question is they referenced something that was going around recently on social media about the fact that oh, your kids only have 8 summers, or you only have 10 birthdays to be able to get it right for your children's childhood. And again, I appreciate the spirit of what that idea was about, again, making what matter most, maintaining perspective, which I'm all about. If you're familiar with my work, I'm all about perspective. So yeah, recognizing our days are limited, especially our time with our loved ones are limited. These are very fast seasons. How do we make sure that we are making the most of it? So I appreciate the sentiment behind that call out that you only have X amount of summers, or you only have X amount of these opportunities. However, what I think unfortunately has happened, it's put enormous amounts of pressure on a lot of cases, moms, to level up and make these magic moments every which way. And the reality is, when we're already feeling depleted, it's probably really hard to think of these ways that we can have these creative opportunities for our loved ones. And it just feels like another thing that we have to be doing. Or perhaps maybe we're feeling a wee bit of that guilt or even shame that, oh my gosh, here's another thing I'm not doing right, or I'm not doing enough of. So I thought together today we will briefly unpack that idea, because I do have some suggestions and some ideas and actually some directions on how we can make sure that we are able to make what matters most matter most, but not at the sake or at the cost of our well-being. So that's what we're going to dive into. So before we dive into that, though, let's just acknowledge what is happening. So I am recording from my home office, which I'm very appreciative to be able to do. And I am also doing that with 2 puppies who have a case of the zoomies. And I have learned to go pretty much feral whenever I try to do a recording. And I'm negotiating and brokering my time today where I'm going to need the puppies to be supervised by other people. So I don't want to tap into that yet, because I'm going to need that for this afternoon. So I have fully embraced the chaos happening in my home office with 2 little puppies, Navy and Memphis, literally having a WWE, perhaps moving to UFC type of a match behind me while I'm trying to tell you about making the most of what matters most. So call it, acknowledge it, and recognize it. So if you happen to be watching this, the puppies are in full display. And again, they pretty much go feral. But what I love is, as soon as I stop recording, they will curl up on that couch and they will have a beautiful slumber, this beautiful, precious little sleep. And I will fall in love with them all over again and forget about the damage and the havoc they have just reached and achieved in this space. Okay. So how do we make what matters most matter most without it actually costing us? Now, this reminds me when, after COVID, I had a lot of families and communities that I was working with where they were asking me, how do I make it up to my kids? How do I make up the graduations that they missed? How do I make up the birthdays that they missed? How do I make up any of the rites of passage that they missed? My first invitation on that note, and what I shared with them back then, was we don't have anything to make up for. We were not responsible for a global health pandemic. We don't have to make it up to our kids. We were having what's called a parallel experience. We, as grown-ups and adults, were going through this while they also were going through this. We don't have to make it up to them. It's this idea that there's this acknowledgement and recognition that when we go through difficult experiences and difficult seasons, there is going to be loss. There is going to be missed things. That's part of what actually makes some of these difficult seasons so hard is the fact that it's outside of routine. It's outside of how we thought things were going to unfold or how we envisioned or imagined or had hope for things to unfold. So we don't have to make it up to people when there are things absolutely outside of our control. The other invitation on that is I would encourage us not to get in the trap that we have to make it up to people with our words. I do believe that if there are scenarios where we do have to make it up to somebody, to me, that ties into relationship repair. It's not just kind of putting a band aid on a situation. Like we actually have to have a bigger kind of conversation and with our actions, show people that we're remorseful. With our actions, show people that we're going to choose to do things differently again. Now, I can share with you one of my hard earned lessons on this front. This was years ago. I remember one morning, we're having a little team huddle at breakfast, and Hunter shared with me that he had a really big high school basketball game after school and that it was really important that I was there. And I'm like, dude, I will not miss this. And I was just remember actually almost basking in the fact that he like still wanted his mama to be there, right? And I remember at the time I was still working at the university and I walked into campus and even shared with my office mates that I was going to be leaving a wee bit early because I was going to go see Hunter's match, his basketball game after school. And I remember it got time where I needed to get ready to go, and I started to go. And then somebody stopped and said, "Oh, hey, Robyne, I just have a quick question. Hey, Robyne, can you just sign this? Hey, Robyne, can you just do this?" And I ended up getting really distracted by all of this, these asks and these requests, and I ended up being very late for tip off to the point where I made it for the fourth quarter. Okay, you don't need to know a lot about basketball just to know that I literally came at near the end. And I remember when the buzzer finally went off and the game ended, I'd been there only for a couple minutes. Hunter came up into the stands and he said, Mom, I'm so glad you made it. This was a big deal for me. And I'm like, yeah, buddy, I'm here. I made it. And I was actually feeling pretty good about the fact that I was there. And then he looked at me and I noticed his mood kind of changed. And he wasn't doing it in a mean way or a way that was trying to like induce like guilt by any means. But he said to me, he goes, "Hey, Mama, just a quick question. Have you ever been late for work in terms of like a keynote or like a big meeting?" And I looked at him kind of as kind of guard, and I was just like, "No, dude, I can't be late for those things. Those things are really important." Yeah. I said to the kid, those things are really important. Now, I'm not proud of that moment by any means. I couldn't believe those words came out of my mouth because that wasn't like, yeah, that's how I was showing up, obviously, but that's not how I wanted to be showing up. And that was so outside of my values. So in that moment after I said that to Hunter, he looked at me and I looked at him and I was just like, knowing in my heart, it's like, I am screwing this up. And he said to me, "Mom, it's okay. You have 4 more years of me being in high school. And I trust that you're going to figure this out. It's okay." He's like, "You tell me that family is everything. And I know that we're going to do things differently. I believe that. I believe in you, Mom. We can fix this. It's good." And in that moment, he gave me such a generous gift. He probably didn't even realize that he was giving me. He gave me the opportunity to do relationship repair. And I can tell you from that day forward, from getting hit that with that emotional picnic table in the face moment with Hunter, I didn't miss stuff after that. I would walk away from meetings. I would end calls. I would just be like, "No, I got to go. I made a promise to my kid," when I had made that commitment in advance. And I followed through. And reflecting back on his years of high school, I am so proud that I was able to do better. I was able to learn, I was able to do better, and I was able to again show up for the things that matter most and made sure that my actions matched my words. Okay. So speaking about these ideas, and now I actually have a little Memphis who's joined me on my lap for people who are watching this on YouTube. The way to bring this forward is again making sure that we're operating in our values. We say what we say and we do what we say we're going to do. One of the best ways, for example, we know that you can improve your self esteem, we see this in the literature. The number one way to improve your self esteem. This is shocking to me. It's not about losing 5 pounds. It's not about making more money. It's not about landing this big opportunity. The best way to improve your self esteem is to be a person who does what they say they're going to do. It's the root of building self trust. And when we have this solid foundation of self trust, we start to feel better. We start to know that we are someone that is reliable, somebody that is trustworthy, that we don't betray others, but we also don't betray ourselves. So, okay, back on track, the little things. I love this notion that the little things aren't that little after all. The little things are the things that we actually are going to remember, that I think of them as like the stitches in the tapestry of our lived experiences and our memories and things that matter most to us. It's the little things. Yes, the big things are exciting and special, but even within what makes these big things special, it's often the little moments. Recently, I was just talking to a woman and she celebrated her sister's wedding. And she said, Robyne, everything was beautiful. It was outside at their family's home and it was just the most stunning, beautiful day. And she made a comment about, it was the way that she shared the story about how the grandmother, her reaction when she saw that the sister was wearing her grandmother's dress. So, of all this moment, all of the preparation, all of that went into this stunning, amazing wedding. She said it was the look of recognition on her grandmother's face when she realized her granddaughter was wearing her dress. Like, it's the little things within the big that are the moments that stand out, the moments that really fill up our hearts and create that through line of these really important experiences. So, how do we make the little things that we know matter most? How do we make them matter most? My first invitation for us is to slow down, to see them, to be present. If our faces are in our phones or our thoughts are in the future, feeling anxious or trapped in the past, feeling depressed and chained, it's going to be really hard to notice the little things. And one of the things that I really marvel about the little things, or those little glimmers, or those little moments of joy, those precious little perils, or those little pearls of goodness, again, is that we have to slow down to be able to see them, to be able to slow down to notice them, that they fall within our attention, that we can see them. So we're going to slow down. The other thing I love to think about is to be on the lookout for them. Be on the lookout for those things. Look for moments of things that, inspire a sense of awe or a sense of joy, or just this recognition or a familiarity, or even just almost like you're playing a game with yourself. Maybe it's magic numbers. I know people that are very, very connected to seeing those magic numbers, those patterns in numbers. And again, there's all this philosophy of what those numbers mean and what they represent. But again, it's just these little practices. That's an inside job. It's an inside job. Now, another kind of interesting idea I like to think about when we think about the little things is that I know personally I'm someone who can be really hurt by the little things, but I also get the deepest joy from the little things, right? I'm somebody who feels those little things pretty significantly. I feel them deep and they can hurt me big time. But then I also know that they're also where I get the brightest joys and the deepest kind of moments of awe. So recognizing there might be a dual truth, right? There might be a dual truth. So for example, here I'll give you an example of the little things on both ways. So if somebody I care about deeply sends me a text message and says, love you, it's like, okay. But when I hear somebody send me or give me a text message that says like, I love you, the I ahead of love you, like to me, that is so significant. So when somebody just says love you and it's like one of my inner circles, like one of my people, I sometimes get a wee bit nervous if it's just like, whoa, like did I do something wrong? Like why where's the I in the I love you? But when I hear the I love you, so like just this morning Jack sent me a text message and he's like, "Hey mom, just a reminder, I love you." Like, "Oh my goodness, I feel that." If he sent me a reminder, said, "Hey, love you," you know what? That's awesome. It's great. And I appreciate the fact that I have a 17-year-old who still sends me those little messages. That's not lost on me, but it just feels different. So that one little letter can make a big difference. I hope that makes sense. The other idea about the little things is the fact that I also think the little things actually really shape perception and perspective. Okay, so here's an example. Manners. I am such a stickler on manners. I didn't realize I was such a stickler on manners until I actually like was kind of out in the world and kind of seeing people doing what they're doing and recognizing that there are a lot of people who like have maybe forgotten or have abandoned some of the simple practices around manners. Here's an example. Yesterday, I was on a flight home from Atlanta, and the woman sitting next to me, like she was going through it. Like she was just clearly having a day, and I was trying my best in my space here to share with her like lots of generous assumptions that she was probably not meaning to be that rude or not meaning to be that difficult, right? So not necessarily with me, it was more just the flight crew and everybody else, and she was just having an off day. Anyway, and I was literally sitting there trying to give just generous assumptions that, like, you have no idea where she's coming from or where she's going. And, like, not to be judgy, just sit there and just try to be my best. Anyway, so as we were kind of taxing to leave, I noticed she pulled out a pack of gum and it had this like plastic wrap around the outside of the gum package. And she pulled off the cellophane and then she opened up two pieces of gum. And of course, I'm noticing this in my peripheral. She took two pieces of gum out of like the little tinfoil and she was holding them in their hand. And then I just noticed, I was kind of surprised because she had them out in her hand and then she just dropped them on the floor of the airplane. She just like dropped them on the floor. And I looked at her and I literally said, "You dropped something." And then she looked at me. She made deep eye contact, like she was paying attention. And then she took the toe of her running shoe and she like slid it under the seat ahead of her. Oh my goodness, folks. Like, let me tell you, it's a little thing, but I just was so hung up on the fact that that was just so rude. Like, that was like, who does that? Like, what grown ass woman sitting in zone one? Like, who does that? Like, the little things matter because it now, again, changed my perception of this person. Now, this person could be, again, I was trying to operate with generous assumptions, and, this person could be like, the most impactful businesswoman. She could be this amazing human being on all these different levels. But the fact that she did that, I'm like, you're not my people. Like, I just, no, thank you. No, thank you. So again, the little things, you never know when they are going to like essentially make or break situations. And other things I could share with you. So again, we were in Atlanta for Jackson's basketball, and this big event was like covered with scouts from all of the colleges and universities. They were so like they were everywhere, and there was part of me that had this moment where I wish I could have chatted with some of these players about like first impressions, right? Like when a grown up is speaking to you, when a scout from a college is speaking to you, a D1 basketball scout, take off your headphones. Like literally just take off your headphones and not like slide it over, like literally take out your headphones, stand in front of them, use basic courtesy and manners. Like I can't help but think that those are the things that when the talent is so close, it's going to be the little things that make the difference. It's the little things. And it reminds me of one of my favorite business books that isn't actually, I don't know if it's actually a business book, but one of my absolute favorites is the book called Legacy. And it's a story of this journalist who interviewed the All Black rugby. Oh gosh, it's a rugby team from New Zealand, the All Blacks, and they are like considered like the most successful team dynamic, like this dynasty of just excellence. And so the book's called Legacy. And what the newspaper reporter did was interviewed all of these different people from the All Blacks to understand their culture, to understand the psychological safety within the group, like what they do, this winning philosophy that has just created this amazing, just oh gosh, like this is such a renowned sporting organization. And in I believe it's chapter 1, it's very early in the book. There's this reference to sweeping the sheds, sweep the sheds. And how this newspaper reporter wrote this book was around like advice that we can take from the All Black organizations that we can apply to our business. But it was called Sweep the Sheds. And they made reference to like after the All Blacks won like this, massive event within their field of excellence, their sport, that the cleaning crew came in to clean up after their celebrations in their locker room. And they came in and it was spotless. So just take a moment to think about, like, for example, when the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. Okay, that was a really long time ago that they did, but like remembering, when an NFL team wins the Super Bowl, or even when Florida just won when they just won the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, or the Argos for our Canadian friends last year when they won the Grey Cup. Like when you think about these teams when they win, or the Super Bowl, if you think about the World Series, whatever the thing is. Imagine what the locker room looks after those celebrations, right? So whatever that image you can draw in your head, what it likely looks like afterwards, just think about that for a moment. And then imagine going in with a bunch of rugby players, right? And they have this reputation of being these like monsters on the field, but gentlemen off the field. The opposite they actually say about soccer, which I think is fascinating. Anyway, rugby players off the field, their clubhouse was flawless. They cleaned up after themselves. They picked up after themselves. It's the same as like after practices, even. They would sweep the sheds. They would put all the equipment away. They would take care of things because they said, we look after and we have that responsibility, that notion of stewardship, that the little things matter. They respect each other. They respect their teammates. They respect their identity. The little things make a really big difference. All this to be said, to answer the person's question, like, Robyne, how do we like make all these magic moments? I believe it's the little things. It's slowing down to set the intention. And at the end of the day, the question I used to guide my thinking, especially when I was trying to create these moments for my family, is how do I want them to feel? Do I want them to feel this idea of like that, we were connected, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Having a present parent is way better than having a parent who's trying to be perfect. How does it feel? If we want to have a memorable moment with someone, can we put them at ease? Can we let them know that, hey, this feels like I'm building a core memory right now because this is so special? Being present, bringing a sense of ease, noticing those glimmers, noticing those moments, and catching those memories. Now, my dear friend, Peter Katz, shared with me a story from one of his other friends. And the mother had this practice that when something special happened, she would just tap her heart twice. And it was as if she was like recording it in her heart center, right? Whenever a great moment happened or an experience happened, she would just tap her heart twice as a way of just bringing her to the present moment to like capture how special this precious moment was. So my invitation as we move forward in our seasons is to slow down enough to be able to capture those moments because they're precious moments. And again, we might not get all of the summers and all of the things done that we might hope for, which is part of how the world unfolds. Some things are outside of our control. But what is within our control is to be present and to be able to appreciate what's happening right in front of us. Because what we appreciate appreciates. What we appreciate will grow, and it very much will become that thread that ties in all of these beautiful memories. So my friends, I hope that helps. I hope that was useful. Please keep asking me your questions, whatever works for you, DM, email, whatever you want to do, because I would love to continue to answer your questions because ultimately, as I've shared before, I want to be useful and I want to be of service. So thank you for asking. Thank you for tuning in today. I look forward to doing this again next time. And you probably can't see this, but those puppies are sound asleep. So thank you for embracing all of it, even the messy parts. Bye for now. Thank you for spending time with this podcast episode today. I hope you found something helpful in Resiliency Redefined. Please feel free to share it with somebody who you might think could benefit. Maybe there was something useful, something in particular that you think you could pay forward. Also, if you have a moment, please feel free to rate and review this podcast wherever you like to listen to your podcast. It means the world to me. And again, thanks for your time. Thank you for your interest. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.